I know this is scary,
The knock
but
came
you're gonna
just
be
before
okay.
dawn, soft,
We'll get through this
uneven,
together.
almost drowned beneath the rumble of rain. Calder Rook, Maddox, captain of the Hellsangels Ravenbrook chapter, was tightening his bike's chain when it sounded again. He opened the door, expecting a local drunk or trouble. Instead, a boy stood barefoot on the porch, soaked to the bone, blood on his shirt sleeve. Before we start this story, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Also, please subscribe to the channel. It will help us to bring you more inspiring stories every day. His voice trembled, breath steaming in the cold. Please, sir. They beat my dad. He's dying. Behind him, the storm rolled across the Montana plains like an angry god. For a long second, the world stood still. Then Rook bent low, the hard lines of his face softening. "What's your name, kid?" "Eli," the boy whispered, eyes wide with fear and trust all at once. Rook glanced toward the highway, empty, black, endless. "All right, Eli," he said quietly, grabbing his leather jacket. "You just found the right kind of trouble." Behind him, the clubhouse lights flickered to life as engines began to stir. Inside the clubhouse, the air smelled of oil, coffee, and rain. Rook guided the boy toward the fire, wrapping him in an old flannel. Eli couldn't have been more than 9, his hands trembling as he clutched a torn baseball cap. "Where's your dad?" Rook asked. "The old mill road," Eli said, shivering. "They hit him real bad. Said he owed money." "Who?" Rook pressed gently. The boy hesitated. "The Petrova brothers. From town." The name made every man in the room go still. Those weren't small-time bullies. They ran illegal loans through the trucking yard, preying on struggling families. Rook straightened, his jaw tightening. "Axel, tank at the medkit and van ready. The rest of you gear up." Eli's lip quivered. "Will they kill him?" Rook crouched again, looking him dead in the eyes. "Not if we get there first." Outside, thunder rolled over Ravenbrook's hills. One by one, the Harleys fired up, their headlights cutting through the dark like a promise. The convoy tore down the 2-lane road, engines echoing across the valley. Rain turned the asphalt slick, but Rook didn't ease off the throttle. Eli sat in the van behind him, staring out through the fogged glass, his small face ghostly in the glow of passing headlights. When they reached the old lumber mill, silence fell. The place was half collapsed, its rusted signs swaying in the wind. Rook dismounted, boots sinking into mud. "Spread out," he ordered. "Look for movement." The beam of Tank's flashlight swept across the yard-broken crates, wet tire tracks, blood smeared near a dumpster. Then came a faint sound, a groan. They found him behind a stack of pallets, Eli's father, face battered, shirt torn, breathing shallow. Rook knelt beside him, 2 fingers on his neck. "He's alive." Eli ran to him, sobbing. "Dad." The man's eyes fluttered open, glassy and weak. "They said they'd finish it tonight." Rook's jaw set. "Not on my watch," he muttered, rain hissing around him. They rushed him back to the clubhouse, Doc already setting up blankets and IV gear. Eli's father, Mark, was in bad shape. Cracked ribs, concussion, and deep cuts from brass knuckles. "Hospital's 40 minutes away," Doc said. "He won't make it through the ride." Rook nodded. "Then he stays here. We'll stabilize him first." Eli refused to leave his father's side. He gripped Rook's vest, whispering, "They'll come. They said they'd burn our trailer." Rook crouched, voice calm but heavy. "Not tonight. You're safe here." He glanced at Axel, locked the gates. No one in or out till dawn. Hours passed. The storm broke, leaving fog over the valley. In the flicker of firelight, Rook sat by Eli's side, the boy finally asleep. His hand still holding his father's. Rook stared at the flames, thinking of his own son buried 5 years ago after a car crash. He hadn't let himself feel fatherly since. Until tonight. Something had shifted. Morning crept slow over Ravenbrook. The smell of coffee mingled with the distant hum of bikes cooling outside. Mark stirred, groaning softly. Rook leaned closer. "You're safe, brother. You're with the angels." The man blinked, confusion turning to gratitude. "You helped." "My boy," Rook nodded. "He helped us first." Mark tried to speak, but pain overtook him. "The Petrovas," he rasped. "They want the farm." "Won't stop till." Rook raised a hand. "Then we stop them." Axel entered, phone in hand. "Got eyes on their trucks near Miller's quarry. Looks like they're loading something heavy." Rook rose, stretching his shoulders. Debt collection day just came early. Eli appeared at the door, clutching a piece of toast, his small voice steady. "Can I come?" Rook smiled faintly. "Not this time, soldier. You've done your part." He placed his leather jacket over the boy's shoulders. "This stays here till I get back." Eli looked up. "Promise?" "Cross my scars," Rook said. The angels rode out at sunrise, their convoy slicing through morning fog like a pack of iron wolves. Rook led at the front, his black helmet reflecting the pale light over the valley. Behind him, Axel and Tank flanked tight, engines growling steady. They passed long stretches of farmland, the smell of wet soil and diesel thick in the air. "You sure about this?" Tank asked over the combs. "Yeah," Rook said quietly. "We don't start fights, but we finish them." At the quarry's edge, they cut engines and listened. Faint laughter echoed between the cliffs. The Petrova brothers and their crew were there loading crates into a truck, smoke curling from cheap cigars. Rook's voice was calm but cold. "Nobody draws unless they draw first." He dismounted, boots grinding against gravel, eyes fixed on the men who had beaten a father near death. The wind carried the smell of rain and gasoline, a storm brewing again. Only this time it wasn't weather. The Petrovas spotted the angels before they spoke. 4 rough men, scarred and confident, leaned against the truck, smirking. "Well, if it ain't the charity riders," sneered even Petrova, wiping grease from his hands. "Come to preach again, preacher boy." Rook's jaw flexed. "You touched a kid's father. That's no debt, that's cowardice." The laughter that followed was ugly, bouncing off the quarry walls. "You think your patches make you gods?" Even stepped closer, cigarette glowing between his teeth. "You don't own Ravenbrook." "No," Rook said, his tone dropping. "But we protect it." His hand brushed the handle of his knife, not to threaten, just to remind. The air turned tight. The other bikers spread wide, positioning themselves wordlessly like a living wall. "Walk away, Ivan," Rook warned. "While you still can." For a moment, the wind was the only sound. Then Ivan spat near his boots. "You got 1 hour, Angel. After that, we come for what's ours." He turned and left laughing. Back at the clubhouse, the tension was sharp as iron. Rook slammed a map onto the table. "He's bluffing," Axel muttered. "He won't risk a war." Rook shook his head. "No, he wants to scare the kid. Break what's left of that family." The men exchanged grim looks. Rook's mind raced. He wasn't just offending strangers anymore. It had become something deeper, unfinished business with every man who preyed on the weak. Outside, Eli sat alone on the porch, tracing the Hells Angels logo on Rook's spare jacket with his finger. "My dad used to fix bikes too," he said softly when Rook joined him. "Said engines never lie, they either run or they don't." Rook smiled faintly. "Smart man. You're gonna make them stop, right?" Rook looked at the boy, seeing his own son's ghost flicker in those brown eyes. "Yeah, kid," he said. "We're gonna make 'em stop for good." Inside, thunder echoed again, not from the sky this time, but engines. Night fell fast over Ravenbrook. The town's neon signs flickered weakly against the dark as Rook's convoy rode out again. No lights. No noise but the hum of engines. They parked behind an abandoned feed mill across from the Petrovas bar. Through dusty windows they could see them drinking, loud and careless, bragging about teaching lessons. Rook's gloved hand tightened around his flask. "No cops, no guns. We're here to end this, not bury it," he said quietly. The angels nodded. When Ivan staggered out to smoke, Rook stepped from the shadows. The streetlight caught his face, rain dripping from his jawline, eyes burning cold. "You talk too loud," Rook said. Ivan grinned drunkenly. "You can't scare me, old man." Rook's silence was heavier than a threat. Then he spoke, each word carved in stone. "This town's done bleeding for your ego." Ivan swung first, a mistake. The fight exploded like thunder. Fists, boots, rain, chaos. But this time, justice hit back harder. By the time the dust settled, the Petrova brothers lay sprawled in the mud, bruised, beaten, but breathing. Rook stood over them, chest heaving. "You come near that boy or his father again," he said, voice hoarse. "You'll wish the law got to you first." The angel stood behind him, silent and steady. No cheering, no pride, just purpose. Rook turned, rain glistening on his scars, and walked away. As they mounted their bikes, Eli appeared at the corner, barefoot, clutching his father's jacket. "Is it over?" he asked. Rook crouched beside him, wiping mud from the boy's cheek. "It's over, son." Eli's eyes filled with tears. "Can I be like you one day?" Rook's smile was soft but sad. "Be better. Be the kind who doesn't need to fight." The boy nodded slowly. Behind them, the convoy started up again, engines low, steady, like the heartbeat of something sacred. And as they rode into the dawn, peace followed behind them, quiet but real. The morning after the fight, sunlight bled through low clouds over Ravenbrook. The main street was quiet, except for the soft hum of Harleys parked by the diner. Locals peeked from windows, whispering. Everyone had heard what happened at the Petrovas bar. Some feared retaliation, others secretly felt relief. Inside the diner, Rook sat across from Mark, now patched and bandaged, sipping weak coffee. "You didn't owe me this," Mark said. Rook shook his head. "You don't owe a man for doing what's right." Eli sat between them, eating pancakes like he hadn't seen food in days. "They won't come back, will they?" he asked softly. Rook smiled faintly. "Not while we're around." Outside, Bear leaned on his bike, scanning the horizon. "You think the sheriff's gonna let this slide?" Axel muttered beside him. Bear chuckled. "Sheriff knows half this town sleeps safer tonight." For the first time in months, Ravenbrook felt still. The kind of peace that hums after thunder leaves. Later that afternoon, the angels gathered by the river road, the same place where they first met Eli. Rook stood apart, hands on the railing, staring at the slow current below. His reflection rippled hard eyes, worn face, the weight of years resting behind silence. Axel approached quietly. "You did good, brother." Rook exhaled. "Feels like I'm just patching holes in a sinking ship." "Maybe," Axel said, "but some holes need fixing more than others." Rook's lips twitched into a half-smile. The sound of laughter drew his eyes, Eli and Mark by the riverbank, skipping stones. For the first time, Mark's laugh was real, unguarded. "He reminds me of my boy," Rook murmured. Axel nodded. "Then maybe that's your sign." "What sign?" "That you ain't done yet." Rook didn't reply. He just watched the boy throw another stone, sunlight glinting on the water like sparks from an unseen forge. Each one a reminder that broken things can still shine. Days passed. The Petrovas vanished from town, their bar shuttered, their trucks gone. Word spread that they'd skipped county lines. Rook didn't ask how or why. Some justice worked quietly. The angels turned their focus back to what mattered: repairing bikes, running charity rides, keeping Ravenbrook steady. One evening, Eli ran into the clubhouse holding a folded piece of paper. "For you," he said, handing it to Rook. It was a drawing, crayon and pencil lines of motorcycles under a sunset. In the middle, a big man with a beard stood beside a small boy. On their jackets were tiny red wings. "That us?" Rook asked. Eli nodded shyly. "Dad says you're my guardian biker." The room went still. Even Tank blinked hard and looked away. Rook framed the drawing on the wall that night. Above it, he etched 3 words into the wood: "Ride for others." The next morning, the sign gleamed like scripture in the rising light. Ravenbrook changed slowly. The same townsfolk who once crossed the street when they saw the angels now waved, offered pie, or left coffee out by the station. The club's reputation shifted from feared to respected. "Yes, the sinners turned shepherds," Tank joked one morning. Rook smirked. "We didn't change, we just let people see the real side." Mark started helping at the garage, fixing engines and finding purpose again. Ayla became a regular at the clubhouse, sweeping floors, handing out wrenches and wearing a small patched vest Rook had custom made for him. Across the back it read, "Prospect of Hope." Every time Rook saw it, something in his chest eased. One evening, Eli asked, "Why do you ride so much?" Rook looked toward the horizon. "Because some roads heal what words can't." The boy smiled. "Then I'll ride too someday." "You will," Rook said softly. "But not to escape, only to remember." The sun dipped, painting their faces in copper gold. Trouble, however, never stayed gone for long. One evening, Rook received a call from Sheriff Denning. "Heard Petrovas' cousins rolled back into town," the sheriff said. "Mean types might be looking to settle scores." Rook sighed. "Figures. I'm keeping the peace," Denning
I know
added.
this is scary,
"But if
but
things get
you're gonna be
messy,
okay.
I didn't hear
We'll get
from
through
you."
this together.
"Understood," Rook replied, ending the call. He turned to Axel and Tank. "Lock up the shop. No rides tonight." The men nodded, silent. Outside, wind tugged at the flags on their bikes, carrying the scent of storm again. Rook stood under the porch light, hand resting on the railing, listening to the faint laughter from inside where Eli played cards with the boys. His knuckles ached, his scars throbbed, but something inside him had changed. He wasn't chasing redemption anymore. He'd already found it here, in loyalty, in a boy's laughter, in a town learning to trust again. Whatever came next, he'd meet it standing tall. The next evening, thunderheads rolled over Ravenbrook like bruises across the sky. The angels gathered in silence, leather creaking as they checked their bikes. Rook tightened his gloves, scanning the distant highway. "They'll come from the ridge," Axel muttered, checking his watch. Rook nodded. "We don't go looking for war, but if it finds us, we finish it clean." Lightning flashed, illuminating the line of Harleys gleaming wet beneath the rain. Inside the clubhouse, Eli peeked through the window, fear flickering behind his brave front. Mark rested a hand on his shoulder. "They ain't fighting to hurt, they're fighting to protect." Outside, headlights appeared on the far road, 3 trucks crawling toward town. Rook's jaw hardened. Positions. Engines roared to life, echoing like thunder answering thunder. The storm broke in earnest, wind ripping across the valley. As rain poured down, the angels rolled out 30 strong steel guardians riding straight into the storm's open mouth. The confrontation unfolded beneath the old water tower on the edge of Ravenbrook. The Petrova cousins spilled from their trucks, tattooed, wild-eyed, and armed with bats. "You bikers think you run this place?" one shouted through the rain. Rook cut his engine, water dripping from his beard. "No," he said evenly. "We just keep men like you from breaking it." The air pulsed with tension. A bottle shattered. Then chaos erupted: mud, fists, thunder. Rook moved through the fray like iron in motion, blocking, disarming, protecting his brothers. Axel caught a bat across the shoulder. Tank tackled the man before he could swing again. Lightning flashed white, illuminating the violence like some ancient battle reborn. Finally, Rook cornered the leader against a fence, breathing hard. "This is your last chance. Leave Ravenbrook." The man spat blood. "You think you're heroes?" Rook's eyes burned steady. "No, just men who remember what mercy looks like." The rain washed everything clean. By dawn, the storm had broken. The Petrovas were gone, limping, leaving tire tracks that disappeared into the fog. The angels stood in silence beside their bikes, soaked, exhausted, but unbroken. Rook looked toward the horizon, pale light spilling across the fields like forgiveness. "No trophies," he said quietly. "No stories. Just peace." They nodded. Back at the clubhouse, Mark waited with coffee ready. Eli ran into Rook's arms, clutching him tight. "Did you win?" the boy asked. Rook knelt, shaking his head. "No one wins in fights like these, kid. We just make sure the good folks get another sunrise." Eli smiled through sleepy eyes. "Then that means we did." The men chuckled softly. For the first time, Rook let the boys' hug linger. The engines cooled outside, steam rising into morning light like ghosts, leaving behind something sacred. Ravenbrook was quiet again, and for once, quiet didn't feel empty. It felt earned. Weeks passed, and summer crept over Montana's hills. The Angels hosted a charity barbecue for the town, a fundraiser for families hit by debt and loss. Kids laughed, live blues played, and the smell of grilled ribs drifted through the air. Rook stood beside Mark, watching Eli dart between tables, his patched vest shining in the sunlight. "You ever think you'd see this day?" Mark asked. Rook smiled faintly. "Didn't think I'd see many days worth remembering." The sheriff stopped by, hat in hand. "Heard the Petrovas moved south. You boys do good work, even if I can't say it out loud." Rook chuckled. "We're not here for thanks, Sheriff. Just the road." As evening fell, lanterns flickered, casting golden light over faces once divided by fear. For the first time, Ravenbrook felt like a family stitched back together by grease, grit, and grace. Above it all, engines rumbled softly like a heartbeat that refused to fade. That night, After everyone left, Rook sat on the clubhouse porch, the valley bathed in moonlight. Eli's laughter still echoed faintly from down the road. The world smelled of dust, rain, and redemption. Axel joined him, 2 beers in hand. "You ever gonna slow down?" he asked. Rook smiled tiredly. "Someday. Maybe when the roads run out." They sat in silence, engines cooling, cicadas humming. In the distance, lightning flickered over the far hills, silent, harmless now. Rook's gaze softened. "You know what I've learned, brother?" "What's that?" "That angels don't fall. They ride." He lifted his beer, clinking it against Axel's. Down in town, the streetlights glowed like constellations over lives mended by compassion in leather and steel. Before the screen fades, Rook's voice lingers. "Subscribe, ride with us. And never forget, every act of kindness echoes longer than thunder." The engines start again, and Ravenbrook sleeps beneath the sound of salvation.